In the 1920s and 30s, there was a prevailing belief among many psychologists that relationships were not very important to mental health and well-being. Some so-called experts even taught that too much parental love could be dangerous for a child's development. A seminal study by a psychiatrist named Renee Spitz helped persuade many that this view was wrong. Spitz compared the outcomes of two groups of infants after their first year of life. The first group was raised in a traditional orphanage. Now, at that time, infection was a serious problem in orphanages. Hence, they went to great lengths to ensure that their facilities were clean. Unfortunately, in their efforts to create a sterile environment, they went too far. Extreme measures were taken to ensure that children had little to no contact with anyone or anything that could be a carrier of germs. The second group that Spitz studied was comprised of the children of young mothers who were in prison at the time their babies were born. These babies remained with their mothers in a prison environment for the first year of life. Now, the food, clothing, suburban location, physical layout, and hygienic conditions at each institution were alike. If anything, some of the conditions in the orphanage were superior. The key difference between the groups of babies was their access to social interaction. The prison mothers, who were deprived of most activities, spent almost all of their time doting upon their new babies. On the other hand, the infants in the orphanage lacked human contact most of the day. After 1 year, the differences between the two groups were striking. The prison infants had flourished, while the infants in the orphanage had languished. In all respects, the infants of imprisoned mothers fared much better than the children of the orphanage. 37% of the children from the orphanage died. The vast majority of the rest suffered severe developmental delay. In contrast, no child from the group of imprisoned mothers died. So what's the take-home message? Love is critical to our proper development. The more scientific term for this is attachment. Dozens and dozens of psychological studies have confirmed that attachment, or relationships, are critical not only for the proper development of children, but also for the well-being of adults. To quote one of the founders of the field of positive psychology, who summarizes decades of research, "Other people are the best antidote to the downs of life and the single most reliable up." So where does the rewarding and satisfaction-inducing characteristic of relationships come from? If you believe in scientific explanations, on some level, it must come from our evolution. In part, it's most likely an extension of the necessarily deep and loving relationships that human parents have had to develop with their young children to ensure their survival. It's also surely because strong social connections have always served us so well. Our ancestors likely faced many unpredictable challenges, ranging from rapidly changing weather to attacks from wild animals. Those families who formed strong social connections were more likely to survive. As a consequence, deep relationships also became extremely rewarding. So here's the key takeaway. A great body of scientific evidence demonstrates that relationships are the most important factor in our happiness and well-being. If evolution is responsible for this, as seems to be the case, then the closest of our relationships, our family relationships, should have the most bearing, for better or for worse, on our mental health and happiness. This is the way we have been psychologically and evolutionarily engineered. This is the way we were created.